Today I have the honor of interviewing Pawz One, a prolific MC. He started out as a graffiti artist and then into the battle rap scene. He then went on to start recording albums, and he's released over 10 albums available on digital streaming platforms. He's continually performing, he tours overseas, and he's an incredible MC with major hits. He's worked with major artists such as Termanology, Masta Ace, Ruste Juxx, Percee P, Ras Kass, and more. Let's bring him in.
Palms are
There we go.
sweaty.
How are you, bro?
There's vomit on it. Ready. Mom's spaghetti. Nervous. But on the surface, seems calm and ready. What up?
What up, my bro? Thank you so much.
For sure. Appreciate you guys. Shout out everybody already in here.
Shout out to everybody. And shout out Pawz One. Right before we went on, I gave a little teeny intro about your incredible career. Over 10 albums available on digital streaming platforms. There's a lot more work that you've done than that. You started as a battle rapper, a graph artist. What I always like to do with creatives that we bring into the platform is talk with them about how they got started in their craft, how they fell in love with what it is that they became masters at. So if you could take us on that journey, how did you get involved with music and hip hop?
Shit, like, most people, music's always been in the household, like mom and pops, grandparents, shit like that. And then there's stuff that you like and you don't. You're not really aware of what category to really put it in. You just know how the shit makes you feel when it's on, right? And you have certain memories attached to certain songs, like a certain Stevie Wonder song will take me back to a memory. But anyway, moving on from that, there wasn't too many musicians in the family, so it was a lot of other people's music, English, Spanish, and just kind of growing up around that. It was real bad in the household, like a lot of violence, on different levels, and gotta escape somehow, So I used to draw a lot when I was a kid, and once I learned how to write, I started like writing little stories, and I was into sports, so I write story like Sandlot, like the movie Sandlot. So I write about a kid who makes it and he ends up in the NFL and so on, and like I just got addicted to writing, and then I like got into hip hop, and so then I started writing like more or less like I wouldn't even say verses, just little like lines and shit that I felt, and I made it rhyme because I thought that's how you had to do it. And then one of my homies who was actually really good at freestyling was like, yo, that sounds like, he saw the shit I wrote, was like, yo, that sounds like a verse. And I'll never forget, we were smoking, drinking, and he's like, yo, kick some of that shit that you wrote. And I had memorized some of it. And he's like, man, that shit is black. So he like completely fucking ambushed me, right? And I think that was probably the seed of the battle rap shit. Because I went home, I was like, fuck him. So I threw on somebody's beat. I had some instrumental, and I played that shit a million times. I just wrote a whole bunch of shit, just dissing them, and I got frustrated with it. I think I threw it away or whatever. Anyway, from then on, I didn't really want to write, not raps. Fuck that. So I ended up going to juvenile hall a few times for graffiti and different shit, breaking into houses and shit like that. And when I was in there, it kind of circled back because there's nothing to do. So I just started writing when I was in there, and I was reading all these magazines, Any Magazine, Vibe, Blaze at the time, Double XL, Murder Dog, anything. And I was trying to learn. I was like, yo, if I'm going to do this, because I was already getting close to being 18, I was like, yo, if I'm going to do this and pour myself into this shit, I need to learn it. So I was reading about like when Masta P used to say the album was shipped platinum. I didn't know what the fuck that meant. It sounded cool, though. And then later on, I found out what it meant was that they pressed 1 million CDs. They didn't necessarily sell a million, but they made $1 million. So it looked cool. But learning all these things about the business end, any article I could read, and still writing rhymes. And the way I would trick dudes was be like, yo, do you remember when Method Man said this? And I'll say a line. And they'll be like, nah, that's dope. What song is that from? I missed that one. So I'm like, cool. So I knew I was on the right path as far as writing. And then getting out and actually recording. The goal was to never be a battle rapper. Sure, you know, everybody's the best. And, you know, this guy's whack, whatever the fuck. It all came from going and representing the graph crew and getting on the open mics, wherever it was. If there was a mic, we could just be ciphering or whatever. I would just want to rap the crew, say shit that was on my mind, but always, they'd always come at me. You know, because I was probably one of the only Hispanic dudes in the cipher or whatever. So I got good at it, and got to the point where homies were like, yo, we're going to sign you up. And I was like, no.
I was doing it for us.
Yeah. I'm like, yo, no, we're not doing it. So, and then one day they're like, yo, what are you doing on Friday? I'm like, I'm going to go this and that. No, we're going to go to this show. I go, and they had already signed me up. My name was already in the hat. Literally, like, they used to put shit in a jar in a hat, names and shit. You're going to battle him, and they throw the instrumental on, and it could be fucking, who knows? It could be a Tribe instrumental, whatever. And I started winning money. But there was some that were kind of rigged, where they kept the money within their crew. I didn't realize the politics of it. I ended up getting locked up. I went to prison. When I got out, the whole shit kind of changed. And they're like, look, this is what it is now. And they pulled up, I think it was Grind Time or something. And I was like, oh, where's the beat? And they're like, oh, they don't use beats no more.
Wow.
And they definitely weren't freestyles. So I was like, it's a little too Shakespearean for me. I kind of want to go back to making music, which, again, was the whole point, is what you asked, the music journey. So I went back and just started writing songs, and that's where I did my first project, second, third, and I just try to, like, kind of make up for lost time and just do as much as I could. And you run into a lot of shit. You learn along the way. But that's how I got to kind of where I am currently, in terms of from first listening to it to actually creating.
Wow. So much there, man. Thank you for sharing all that. So many questions that I have. I guess the first is, you were deep in the graffiti culture. Did you came up in Los Angeles, like in Compton, right? Was your graffiti crew out of Compton?
No. So my family, the roots, moving from like Texas and New Mexico, they moved straight to Compton, and then like the harbor area. So like Compton, Wilmington, like that whole little pocket, right? Long Beach. So we would move out, get evicted from somewhere, and have to move back. So, but the family, the base has always been there. But where I mostly grew up, and I like to say where I got most of my scars, was in Norwalk, which is like Southeast LA. And in the Southeast, like a lot of gangs, there's a lot of history, a lot of rap crews came out of there too. But the graph shit at the time that I came into it, it was crazy because there was it was tag banging. Because there was this, so like, you want to do some Lee, some fucking, hip hop shit, and these fools are fucking pulling up
out
and doing drive-bys because you slashed them out, and those dudes ended up becoming cliques of different gangs out here, 18th Street, so on and so forth, right? So I'm a kid. I got family members from gangs. I don't want to do that shit. I like to draw. We go, we paint, we vandalize shit. Some of us are better than others, whatever the fuck, trying to get better, battling people, slashing each other out, catching tags, catching the bus, doing this. But then the drug shit, of course. So a lot of the homies in the crew I was in started getting high. And then one drug fucking led to another. These dudes are homeless, smoking crack, if they're still alive. Some of them ended up gangbanging, getting fucking stabbed up in prison, shit like that. So for me, that was around that time where I was kind of in and out, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna rap. So the graph stuff, I never got to the level that I wanted to get to, but the vandalism like that, just that'll probably never leave. Everywhere I go, I try to catch tags on tour and shit like that. It's just something,
Yeah,
you know
getting
what I
up.
mean? Yeah, just getting up, period. One time I was, Sean P, rest in peace, on the tour I did with him. I was catching tags, you know, out there, and, you know, they're out there smoking and shit. Band is parked, and I'm going, and I walk up the street catching tags. And the tour manager was like, yo, bro, chill, this and that. And then Sean P was like, nah, yo, he's getting up. Let him get up. So that was one of those little memories that I got. You know what I mean? But,
yeah. The name Pawz One, right? Does that have like a story? I mean, Pawz One's a graph name, like the one, you know, it's like, oh, this is a hip hop cat. This, you know, this is a hip hop cat. This is a graffiti cat. Pawz. Does that come from something? Does that mean something?
well, first of all, it doesn't mean what it means in New York. All right?
Right.
Let's get that straight now. Right?
Pawz.
I've had an issue with that day one. But anyway, it has a few meanings depending on who you ask. You know, like there's a lot of mystical shit if you want. Like I didn't know that my first word was dog. I found out years later I was born in the year of the dog. And I got bit on the chin by a dog was my first word. Yep. Michael Myers knows. So it was basically like that was some shit I learned later. But in graph, it's kind of like leaving your mark, getting up, and then also beating people up if necessary.
Yeah.
You know, but it just depends on, you know, who's asking and how they meet you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see Mike Kilmer's music said he can fight. Like you got hands, you got them paws. So
you see, look, you don't want to promote that because there's always somebody out there that's, you know,
like if you're out there, people feel that you don't want to test the theory.
Yeah, and like, and there's a dude that's gonna, you know, you might have a bad day, you know.
There's people that don't have anything to lose.
Anyway,
and you're about handling your business, and there's other people that they're not handling their business.
Pretty much. But those are the more or less the definitions of it. And like Mike said, it's, you know, where we come from, it's necessary. Unfortunately, somebody asked me in an interview about those big red boots people are wearing, and I was like, how do you fight in those? That was my reaction. And the dude is like, yo, only a motherfucker like you would ask that. But anyway, those are the definitions more or less of the name. To be honest, I never wanted it to be my rap name, but I was rhyming under it, and it was kind of too late to change it, so I just fucking wrote it out. Fuck.
Yeah, and it's a dope name, man. It's a dope name.
Thank you.
Yeah, bro.
Thank you.
So, and then when you start, you know, when you get into the battle rapping and the freestyling, and that era, were you freestyling like off the top, just completely freestyle the way it was done?
Yeah. So like there's, and you know, when you delve into that whole thing, like, you know, there's some people that have rhymes that they remember, and they'll kick the first couple lines and then they'll freestyle spin off of that. And then you have some who just it'll be written and you won't really know because they found a way to kind of space stuff out. But freestyle fellowship, people like that, those are the dudes out here. So those dudes, like, there was no written anything. It is kind of whatever you spin it off into. And I was a fan of that. And you know, not all of it was good, because sometimes you warm up, you say some fucking gibberish, rippity rap bullshit, and then you know, if there's somebody in the cipher or whatever that's, you know, better than you try to step your game up, and like, so I always loved that part of it. But the battle stuff, because it's different when you're at a show and you know, you're in a smoking patio or whatever. That's one thing. But it's different when you sign up and then there's money on the line and shit like that. So that's one thing that I noticed too that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, and the politics get involved and all sorts of everything.
Rest in peace, Ganja K. Good example. There was a battle I did in Orange County at the time. Like, any flyer that I saw that had anything, money, because I had a kid on the way. So I was like, yo, that's diapers. I would go and try to win that money. And was one I went to in Orange County. I never worked with that promoter. I had never even been to that club. I rarely went to that city. I went and I ended up working my way up, and I beat this one dude, and I ended up like supposed to move on, and they brought this dude back from the dead. I had to beat him again, and then beat the guy I was supposed to beat, and then like it was kind of weird. But Ganja K was one of the hosts, so they ended up like keeping the money in their circle. I found out later, but afterwards there was a blog that was like, "Yo, can we interview you?" And in my mind, I'm like, "Yo, I'm the loser," right. But I'm like, "Yeah, all right." During the interview, Ganja K came out. He's like, "Yo, I don't care what they say. This dude won. I'm just the host, but I'll tell you right now." And I was like, "Oh shit, that's dope." But it kind of robbed me of the. I felt like Roy Jones. Yeah. Like when he got robbed, I was just like, it takes away from me wanting to do it, because it's like, yo, if you're gonna rig it to keep that $100 in your circle, what the fuck? And then you got some terrible dude out there believing that he's at the top of the food chain, whatever. So I kind of stepped back from that.
Wow. When you know, if you go on to the digital streaming platforms, the first album we have out on there is an incredible album, which is Face the Facts, right? Spectacular album that you put out. It's in a lot of ways it's your debut album, but there's material before that. Can you talk to us leading up to like that first major release, the mixtapes, the things you were doing before you started getting on, you know, with such a high level album, and the people on that album, like Masta Ace and, you know what I'm saying, Termanology and all those cats. What's the era before the album?
So I was doing, everybody was doing mixtapes. None of them were mixed. None of them were tapes. But it was called that. It was just a way to do like a cheap album, more or less. And the first one I did, nobody gave me beats because nobody gave a fuck about me. So I was stealing them. I was rhyming on Dilated Beats, Alchemist. I say this all the time, like whatever I could get my hands on. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't even, if I got the CD of it or whatever it was, even the record, I would not listen to the song if I hadn't already heard it. So when I wrote to that beat, there was no like, you know what I mean? It was 100%. It was 50 Cent-ish, kind of how he would do it. But I'd create a whole new song, and so that was the first one. The engineer didn't really know what he was doing. You know, God bless him. I barely knew what the fuck I was doing. We recorded it in the garage on a $40 microphone probably, but we put it out and we pushed it as hard as we could. And then from there, I followed up. I was doing a shitload of features. I was so happy to be in hip hop that I was just rhyming with a lot of people. And I put out a few of those like compilations of features and shit. And then I did the follow-up. But on the follow-up, people actually gave me beats, which was Verbal Virus 2.5. I became a part of a crew called BAD. We put out an album, all original beats, produced by Asterix. And then from there, my two homies, Default and Breeze, were like, yo, you got to do an album. Stop wasting time doing all this other shit, do an album. And I was terrified, yo. I was scared. Like, the album is definitive. People will go, that's your rookie card. You know what I mean? And they gave me the confidence to do it, and they actually produced it. They sat with me. They worked on the beat right there. They gave me direction. I wrote it. They made me re-record it, rewrite it. Fucking assholes. So I had to redo
like
that
executive producer
the songs, but I love them for it because it made me understand that you can't just throw a beat on and rap and then that's the fucking song. So I learned a lot in terms of making the actual music. Now, as far as the guests that we got, I had already done a few songs, not many, with people. But my homie Izzy was like, look, we need to show them that you're like right on their heels. So he's like, let's try to get these ones, that ones. I had been in prison with Ras.
Wow.
So that was, I reached out to Ras. He was down. That's my bro. We got Term. So I had a rough version of the album, and there was a label below system. I still work with them to this day. Really dope. They heard the love, the original version, and they're like, yo, how do you feel about getting Masta Ace on it? And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. So they ended up getting Ace to jump on the remix, and we put it on the album, and they released the album. So my very first album, when I was locked up, I made, you know, one of those like you make it with like a wish list or whatever the fuck, right? You have to manifest. So I was like, look, I want my first album to be, all I want is distribution. All I wanted was to be in the stores. I'll promote it, I'll hustle. And my first album was with the label in Europe. I got an advance and I had worldwide distribution. Wow. So I didn't realize that till later, like, oh shit, I actually crossed that off the list. Yeah, I did it, yeah. So that was, that whole process, that was a good time. I learned a lot. It did really well. I can't listen to it because I hear all the shit I could have did better. But yeah, to this day, people still play it, and that's, you know, one of their favorites. So
production, I'm glad I was really dope. Who produced it? So it's
two producers. It's actually Breeze and Default. So they did, it's just like a 60-40 kind of thing. Default did most of it, and Breeze did the other portion. But yeah, that was the very first album.
No, that's dope. That's it's a classic album. Like you said, it's your rookie card, so that's why it's dope to touch on it. And then most people don't have a new album dropping with Ras Kass, Termanology, Masta Ace. You know, I mean, it's and there's some other features on there. The whole album is incredible. Can you tell us the story about how you met Ras Kass?
Oh shit, I told the story a bunch of times, but for my people, more or less, some of them know. It's kind of another one of those weird fucking universe things. I remember going to school when I had the Ras Assassination album, and I front to back, top to bottom, left to right, fucking just fully trying to digest everything in there. And I remember I stopped and I had to put it back, the case back in my backpack, and I was like, yo, it'd be cool to meet him one day. That's all I said. And then fast forward, I'm in prison, I'm in Corcoran, and we got a little tiny window to look out of our cell. We could see right into the yard, and you know, there's segregated, you know, blacks, whites, etc. And I'm in there with a dude, Mexican dude, full-fledged gang member, head tattooed, everything, you know, we clicked. A little bit older, and telling him, like, yeah, you just rap shit, blah, 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 whatever. He's like, man, that's cool. Not really his thing, but he's like, yeah, that's dope. So one day, fucking look out the window, and I look down, and on the bench right below the window, I see the profile, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, oh, shit. Because I had seen that face a bunch of times. And I'm like, I'm excited, and the homie's like, yo, what? Well, what is it? He thinks it's a fucking riot or some shit. And I was like, yo, that's he's a rapper. I'm playing fucking charades. Like, how do I tell this dude who's just, you know, is affiliated to the mafia and doing gangster shit, like this was lyrical, you know what I mean? It don't add up. And I was like, he's one of Dr. Dre's favorite rappers. He's like, which one? Which one? And he's looking out the fucking window. And I was like, the little one in the middle. So anyway, time comes, and eventually you're going to end up on the yard together. So I see him, and Universe again, one of my homies from the Graph crew, the homie Dids, again, full-fledged gangbanger, face, everything. Just so happened to be on the yard. Yo, what up, bro? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I was like, yo, you know, Ras Kass is on the yard. It's like, where? But he can't show it because he's, you know? And he's like, yo, what the fuck? We used to lend each other CDs and shit, so woo, etc. And I was like, bro, I gotta go talk to him. And it's very risky because I could offend him and this shit will kick off. So there's literally a yellow line painted, and I go and I tell him, like, bro, I'm gonna go talk to him. He's like, I got you. In other words, if shit goes down, I got somebody who is on roll call that'll be like, yo, I was there, this is how it actually happened. Anyway, cross the fucking line. Two big black dudes get up, and I'm like, oh shit, all right. I was like, yo, Raz, just want to say what up. I'm a fan. When you get a chance, I want to show you some
Yeah.
shit. Coincidentally, we end up in the same building.
Wow.
And from there, we just, like, I finally had a chance to actually talk to him. I talked to him, and first question I asked him was, yo, how do I get a publicist? He wasn't ready for that. But remember, I've been reading these rap magazines throughout all my jail career, so I know what a publicist is. From then on, like he took me serious. I would read him verses. We'd lend each other CDs and like books and shit. And he gave me a lot of jewels. So after that, like we just since then, it's like big brother.
Man, that's so dope, and that's amazing how that all came together. The album that came after the album that came after that, your rookie album, right? Death by Stereo with Ruste Juxx. How did that connection happen with Ruste Juxx? That's an incredible album, and it sounds like a movie.
Thank you. Yeah, that was it got a little bit of burn, but it didn't get like a lot of love. I want to put that on vinyl too.
Yeah, that would be dope on vinyl.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get that pressed up. So at the time, one of the producers, one of the beat bruisers, Suplex, he hit me up and he was like, yo, I got this song with Rusty on it. You know, are you down to add a verse or whatever? End up doing one song. And then he was like, yo, what do you think of doing like a project? And I was like, yeah. But he knows that I put a lot of my own shit out, like the albums that are on the wall or whatever. So I kind of knew the ins and outs to do the indie route. So we got together, we hit up Rusty, we flew him out, we did some videos, we did a bunch of shit, put it out, did an album release party. A label in France actually hit us up and they're like, yo, we want to do the tapes. This is before tapes really like made a resurgence, so that was kind of cool. And it did well at that time. But I feel like if it was reintroduced, it'd probably get a lot more love now, you know?
Yeah, I think that the artwork would look really good on vinyl, and that I can actually visualize, because you know I've got my record collection, and I could visualize putting a good looking vinyl, and the whole intro's got like the Tarantino intro, and it's got like the little pieces. Yeah, putting that on my system, that would be so dope. That would be so dope.
I think I'm gonna have to do that. So actually, look, it's right here.
There.
I pressed through this plant. I pressed 5 copies. That shit was expensive. Wow. So I did the 5. I kept 2, maybe 3, and I raffled off the rest. But that's on the list to get that pressed up.
That's dope, brother. That's dope. You have such a massive discography. I just want to name a few of them out because we won't be able to get into them all. And I definitely want to plug your more recent projects, the ones you're dropping right now. But we talked about Face the Facts and Death by Stereo. This brother's done so much work. If you went on to any of the digital streaming platforms and you put in Pawz One, you're going to see albums like Pick Your Poison, New Art, and Old Frames, Sell Me a Dream, It's Not That Simple, Watch and Learn, Double Homicide. And then in 2022, you did Random Acts of Violence with Evolve. Talk to us about that project. That one's a little bit more recent.
Yeah, so that album, me and him are good friends. So like doing tours and shit like that, we finally got a chance to do some music. And it was kind of a headache though, because files were lost, this, that, the other. We had to redo shit. And then the plant that we used to do the vinyl kind of fucked us over. Took like 9 months.
Vinyl has been such a pain recently.
Yeah. And that's because they're pressing fucking old AC/DC records and, you know, Backstreet Boys and shit that motherfuckers,
right.
You know what I mean? And then that's where you go in the fucking clearance bin like 2-3 months later. But that album, I wish it would have landed when it was supposed to, because the vinyl kind of fucked us. Because we were going to tour with it and do a lot. We did what we could. I think it was right after COVID started to kind of taper off a bit. So, but yeah, I'm proud of that album. I just wish again that it would have been timed better, you know?
Yeah. And what's really dope about your albums is called Random Act of Violence. And there's a concept around the album. And you do that a lot, where there's a concept that goes with the album. And in that one, you've got, you know, those snippets about violence and, you know, characters and storylines. It's really dope how you do that. Who came up with that idea? Did you guys do it together?
Well, I don't want to take credit for everything, but I will. I put a lot of thought into because I was like, yo, it needs something. At the time, I was watching that documentary called Sons of Sam on Netflix. Good documentary, and it's narrated by Paul Giamatti. I'm a big movie guy, so he's really dope. And he says some shit, and he says random act of violence. So I was like, oh fuck, this is perfect. So I sat there, chopped it up, sprinkled it on some shit, and it worked. So even like the back cover, it's got the dudes throwing the Molotovs and shit burning up. But yeah, I try to do that for people that give a fuck. The people that stream, they'll miss so much shit. Like there's like a new album I'm working on with the homie Breed. There's stuff on there that's only on the vinyl and they'll never know. Like a third verse, a feature, shit like remix. Like they won't know unless they put the needle on it. So, but I like doing that because it lets me know who's who. You know what I'm saying?
And you know what? That's like student of the culture level ideas and creativity, because it used to be there might be a Gangstar remix of a song and Guru flipped a different verse, right? That used to happen in hip hop. Also, when we had more longer format albums and tapes, the interlude that was on the end of the song that was not at the beginning of the song, that you had to listen to the whole song and get the Pete Rocks and CL Smooths, you know, all this type of stuff that in the streaming era, you lose it. In the 2-minute song, 2-verse era, a lot of the craft is lost, except for people that are students of the culture, you know?
And that's why, you know, it sucks because it takes, as an artist, it's double the work. Because you gotta like, not necessarily, you don't gotta cater to nobody, fuck them. But I like to give stuff extras to the people that will actually listen. The Spotify people, fuck them. 2-verse hook and a hook, and there you go. Because it's not that I don't care about the music or I don't care about them, but let's call it what it is. If those people aren't actively listening and thoroughly like trying to digest shit and listen to the story of an album, they ain't gonna notice anyway. So they can't miss what they didn't have. So I have an album, like I said, where I'm kind of doing that, where there's a skit that ties into the song. It's at the end of it and it goes into the next song, but they won't know unless they buy the wax.
That's dope. I wanted to ask you, you know, from your very first released album, you know, your rookie album, up until now, you've had a heavy presence in Europe. You've worked with European record labels. You've toured out there. Can you talk to us a little bit about your relationship, what the fans are like there, what the labels are like there, and those types of things?
Well, first and foremost, they actually give a fuck. There's no other way to put it. And what I mean is, it's like you got two choices in the United States. You spend a bunch of money to blow up, or you do some dumb shit and go viral. One or the other. And it's no disrespect to anybody. It is what it is. In Europe, you go on stage, they kind of don't give a shit what you look like. They want to hear it. Like, if you're presented well, even better. But they're just like, all right, let me hear some shit. And afterwards, they're like, they either love it or they don't. And when I say they love it, like, I'll never forget, first time I ever went to Europe, there was a dude, didn't speak any English, showed up to an in-store we did. Now, mind you, I'm with AG digging in the crates and other sensei, fucking legends. Dude shows up, he has a little fucking bag. He walks up to me and he doesn't say a word, and he just pulls out like these random like 8x10 pictures that he went on the internet and printed out, and he wanted me to sign them. And he had Face the Facts, and I was like, oh shit. And yeah, I signed them and everything, but it blew me away because I was like, yo, these dudes, they actually give a fuck. Now, I'm not saying that there ain't fans like that here in the United States, but my homie needs to like you, and my homie's homie and my homegirl, and so they all need to like you in order for me to say that I like you, because I don't want to be the only one. And it's been that way with Wu-Tang, with fucking
Yeah.
everybody. It's unfortunate, but I'm gonna say this. Even though hip hop is 50 years old, a lot of hip hop fans are very, very immature, stuck in the high school. Well, I can't like this because the circle don't like this. Fuck them. So, and I don't want to sound bitter or angry or whatever they want to chalk it up to. It's just reality. So going back to Europe, they care. They care. So I care. That's why anything I make, I try to shoot it there first. Because without them, truth be told, I wouldn't be able to do it financially to this day. Because they buy shit. People here, that was dope. And that was that.
Let me get a selfie.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I appreciate that too. But there's different categories. Real quick, I'll use this analogy. In a marathon, the motherfucker's running, and they could be running for a cause, and they usually are. There's different types of people supporting them. There's people out there just cheering. Then there's people out there cheering with a sign. And then there's people out there handing them cups of water. How long can he or she run if you don't hand them water? Think about it. That sign, that's dope. You took time to make that. You're raising it up high. You're letting people know. Thank you. You're cheering. Thank you. But if it isn't for the ones without the water, like, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be able to keep doing this shit.
Analogy. So, that's a dope analogy. You dropped an album this year. I think it was on Cinco de Mayo, Persona Non Grata. Can you talk to us about that project? Well, okay, for those of us that don't speak Latin, what does persona non grata mean?
It basically means an unwelcome person. So, you know, I don't want to be like, oh, poor me. But the reality of it is being blackballed is an actual thing in the music business. And let's say entertainment industry as a whole. So being blackballed is real. And it's not announced. They're not going to say that they're doing this, but it happens. And you can more or less tell where you're welcome and where you're not. So that was kind of like my fuck you. Like if I ain't welcome, I don't give a fuck anyway. That's why on the back of the vinyl, the cover is a picture of me in Hawaii with, you can see my back. And the tattoo on my back says fuck the world. So it's basically like, look, if I'm unwelcome, I don't give a shit. Because look at my view anyway. You know, I don't really necessarily need that. And the first voice you hear on the album is Sean P. And he says, I don't really give a fuck about a fan. Because they're here today and they're gone tomorrow. I know what he meant, but it goes back to the water and the marathon thing, right?
Yeah.
So that album was kind of, and I didn't put any money into marketing. There was no budget. I got no budget unless I pawn all these pops and shit like that and start selling.
We don't want to do that.
You know, there's no marketing budget. So it's kind of like, all right, let's see who really, really fucks with me. And I get the numbers. I'm seeing them. So I'm like, okay, dope. I'm literally shipping out this vinyl, these cassettes. So I get to see the names. Some of them are new. Some of them are the returns. You know what I mean? People that been holding me down. Some people don't even got record players. They buy them, 3 or 4 of them, because they're handing me water. So I got to keep running.
That's dope. That's dope. This is a good moment to talk about that. If people want to buy vinyl, tapes, CDs, T-shirts, merchandise from you, what's the best place for them to go and do that?
My Bandcamp, PAWZONE.bandcamp.com.
Yeah.
It looks like Pawz One, but that's me. You'll see this shit on there. And then I have a Big Cartel as well. PAWZ, the number 1.Big Cartel. But I also have a Linktree. Linktree/PAWZ, the number 1. Everything's on there. Videos, all of that.
Yeah, it's dope. Your Bandcamp is dope. I even mentioned it in the intro video because it's the stuff of independent artist dreams. Anybody who's ever dreamed of being an artist, any type of creative, they should swing by your Bandcamp store. I wanted to ask you about one of the Bandcamp items you have there. It's called Featured, Unreleased, Collab, Collection, Issue 2.
Just say it. Just say it. Yeah, fuck it. So I remember I told somebody the idea. I was like, yo, I want to do a project that has all the features I've done with
Yeah.
big names or whatever the fuck. And they were like, yo, well, isn't that going to look like this? And isn't that going to look like that? Because
Yeah.
remember, the underground, they won't really support. They're
Yeah.
very, very quick to judge. So, oh, that's whack. Look, he did this. I'm like, fuck it. So the first one is called Fuck, featured unreleased collab collection. Second one is Fuck It, featured unreleased collab collection
That's so
issue
dope.
2. So a third one, we'll see. And the funny shit is like, it's on the
Yeah.
shelf. So when you go to the record store, there's a big album, Fuck It, right?
No, there's Fuck and then there's Fuck It.
Right there. Yeah. So, and like, I got by the censors with that, most of them. But it was basically that. Unreleased shit, rare remixes, like original versions of shit that didn't make the album, and a lot of collabs. So yeah, it was cool. That one, it got a lot of love. It did pretty well, like all the way to New Zealand, Australia. Yeah, it's dope to be able to reach that far with music.
Man, that is dope. And then there's another cool product that you have on. I mean, you've got, first of all, anybody that's got cassettes and vinyl is dope, right? But you've got, you had one joint, I think it's sold out, is the mystery meat can. Yeah, can you talk to us about that?
Let me find it's around here somewhere. Hold on. So shout out to Pawz One. He actually he shot me the beat, and I had it for a minute, but I never really, like, I didn't want to just do it because I wasn't in that mood. I was doing a whole bunch of like darker shit, and the beat was, if you heard it, you know, I was like, all right, I'm gonna put that one on the back burner until I feel like doing it. I ended up doing it, and so he did the artwork. I did the layout for the can, but it's actually a can, and it comes with a cassette. And then that little book is the recipe book, which has the lyrics to the song and everything. So it, and then, you know, I did a couple little like short run records. I did some T-shirts, shit like that. But it was dope. You know, shout out to Pawz again, because he did the production, he did the art, and then, like, you know, I got some new fans.
Yeah.
And you know, the physical merch, what I love about it too is it gives a song more life, because someone's gonna find that can and it has a QR code on it. So it might be in a garage like 5 years from now, somebody's gonna be like, what the fuck is this? Scan it, and then it'll take them back to that record. So that's why I like doing physical shit too.
Yeah, no, what's interesting is, like, when we were talking before this interview, and you know, you were telling me, you were giving me some numbers, and you were like, there's like 200,000 songs uploaded to Spotify every day, right? And physical merch, whether it's something dope and creative like what you have there with the mystery meat, right, can, or cassette, vinyl, CD, it really exists. Tomorrow, Spotify can't get mad at you because you said something about the pandemic and remove your entire discography. You know what I'm saying? These things,
I didn't even
we've lost the, you know, people, movies and things have, you know, if Amazon's not carrying it or Netflix is not carrying it, and that happens occasionally, for an independent artist, I think it's incredibly important to not just have your stuff living in Spotify, but to have it pressed up, even if it's a short run.
Yeah, I think I was telling this dude, I did an interview in before the interview started. I was in the studio, and he's big into like gaming and like WWE and shit. So I'm looking at his shelf. He's got all this like little statues of figures, toys. We do the interview, and I bring the mystery meat can on. He's a younger dude, and he's like, yo, do people still actually buy shit? And I looked at his shelf, and I was like, yeah, sometimes.
Some people do.
Because he forgets, like, yeah, it's music, and of course, Spotify, etc. But, like, the bottom line is I make
Yep.
more money doing that first and foremost, but it gives it a longer lifespan, and it comes from the human need to have it, to own it, to
Yep.
see it, to touch it. That's why these pops, like, they can make a pop for
Yep.
fucking anything, and there's a fan for it, they'll buy it, and the shit's filling up people's
Yep.
houses. But that part of being human will
Yeah.
never go away. So why would you neglect that as an artist? But please don't do it. So there's more money for me. Yeah.
You dropped an incredible song just last week or like 10 days ago. I think the official release date's June 2nd, called Wage War, with copyright Ruste Juxx, produced by Pawz One, cuts by Tone Spliff. Dude, what a banger y'all created. Your verse is incredible. Can you talk to us about that song?
So that song came about, me and Preet are working on the album, like I said. It's called Murals of Mayhem. So he's like, yo, I got this verse from Ruste. Do you, again, he's like, yo, do you want to add a verse and put it on the album? I checked with Ruste. So, all right, cool. So I added the verse, and then we were thinking like, shit, like it felt like it was missing something. So I hit up Copy. Because me and him did a tour. We've done a couple songs, but we did a tour recently with Guilty Simpson. So I hit him up. He knocked it out quick, sent it back. And then I was like, all right, cool. What are we going to do for the hook? And I remember Tone Spliff. He's dope. So I was like, yo, let me reach out to him. Shot it to him. He shot it back, put it together. And I shot it to Man Bites Dog. And it's our first time working, and, you know, put it out to them. And they played it on Shady 45 last night. So it's circulated, which is dope. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be able to retire off of that song or nothing, but I didn't do it for that reason. Like, you know, we all just kind of got together to do some dope hip hop shit, and just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it's a banger, dude. And is that going to be on the new album, Murals of Mayhem?
Yeah, it's on the new album. Low key, for the people that are watching this and made it this far into the interview, we might form a group. Myself, copyright Ruste Juxx. So it'll be, which is really dope because it's Midwest, East Coast, West Coast, and 3 different nationalities, 3 different styles. Do some vinyl tapes, do some tours. So it works. Shout out, Man Bites Dog.
Because you tour in Europe, Ruste tours in Europe, copyright tours. That's like do that, release the vinyl, and go hit the stages. Yeah, and kind of like do circulate, push the music, and that's always the plan, you know. It's just, again, the vinyl shit takes ever. I mean, now it's a little caught up. Persona non grata should be here hopefully this week by Friday, and you know, I'll have, and then I got other albums being pressed. But yeah, that was the most recent one. Yeah, that's such a banger, dude. I wanted to ask you, what shows do you have coming up? What things should we plug as we start to wrap up that we haven't talked about yet?
Depending on how soon people watch this, July 14th, I have a show with Cormega in LA at the Catch One. Shout out Underground Hip Hop Blog. I honestly don't like to do too much in the Southern California area. It's kind of, you know, nobody, I don't know. I just, we're spoiled. We get a lot of shit. And to be honest, I did a lot of shit. So I'm kind of letting it breathe a bit. Before that show, I have a show, Quality Control, in Anaheim at the Doll Hut. That's it. I'm planning a couple tours, East Coast with Ras Kass, possibly Southwest, or like Texas, like down there with copyright, maybe West Coast with Masta Ace. We'll see. I'm not sure.
That's dope, man. That's dope. The Cormega show will be amazing.
In about 2 weeks, I'm going to leave to do some shows. Fresno, Bakersfield, Frisco, Bay Area. It's called the Ego Death Tour with the Unity Project. And that's pretty much it.
That's a lot, though. That is a lot. Yeah, and for people who want to find you online, what's the best way? You mentioned your link tree where you've got things living in there. Where are the best places for them to find you online?
Depends on what they're looking for. If you're looking for merch, Big Cartel, shirts, etc. If you're looking for music and merch and like rare shit that's not on Spotify,
Yeah,
Bandcamp. I had a lot of new videos coming out, but all of those links are in my link tree. But how about this? Go to Instagram at PAWZ and the number 1 and links in my bio. That'll take you everywhere else that you need to go.
Yeah, that's dope, my bro. My man, you've had an incredible career. I think we touched on a lot of it, but not all of it. There's too much work you've put in, and I want to thank you for everything you've done for the culture, for the incredible songs you've created. And by the likes of the song that you just released last week, the best is yet to come.
Appreciate it. Let me hit you with this real quick. Hey, champ, eat your retired supply of Wheaties. Hard for you to keep dying from diabetes. Ain't a fan, never owned any CDs. Slashing through your name if I see it in graffiti. What a greedy fuck. Ask for the beef, eat it up. In the way, push him off of the stage, speed it up. Limping through the rap game, crutches under each arm. Couldn't pass a torch because you needed it to keep warm. Fire back, now that is a joke. Stealing money for his features, how bad is he broke? Oh, please, have his OG status revoked. Spraying up bystanders, hit him as a bonus. Rep LA the wrong way, bro, you should have known this. You should step away because you're a step away from homeless. You had a good run. Now your legs can't carry. Something like that. Silky Johnson. That's Silky Johnson.
Ladies and
They tell me
gentlemen,
take it easy, but I can't for him because he thinks he still got it like a phantom limb. Anyway, that's Silky Johnson is coming next, maybe like 2 weeks.
So dope. My bro, thank you.
Appreciate
thank you so much for
Thanks for
the
having
stories, for all the music. Truly appreciate you.
Nah, I appreciate your time. Shout out to everybody that checked us out and everybody that's supporting what you're doing because you give me a chance to talk my shit.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much. Peace.